25 years ago, there was nothing cooler than poetry. It was the most radical, empathetic art form. And there was nothing cooler than Def Poetry Jam. Featuring legends like Kanye West, Mos Def, Nikki Giovanni, and more, it was a portal into the highest form of revolutionary art. It was our only outlet for truth when protest was seen as a thing of the past. Men could be soft-spoken and articulate. Women could be fearlessly sophisticated. This doorway showed us all what was possible via true liberation. Kevin Koval and Roger Banera-Gard, as featured deaf poets, were superheroes to us. There was no Twitter to universalize suffering via only the power of the word. There was just poetry, and we worshiped its capacity to save the planet. I myself had become a problem child. Intellectually restless, bullied by an unbalanced older brother, I was on the edge of expulsion when Koval walked into our class to promote young Chicago authors and recruit students. That marked a turning point for me. A student with 6 out-of-school suspensions in 6th grade alone. When I wrote a chapbook of poems for our poetry unit, coupled with winning essay contests, it saved me from getting kicked out and gave me purpose. Imagine telling parents then that grown poets would be abusing their child's future friends. I did my first poetry slam competition at 12 years old. Before the Young Chicago Authors Annual Poetry Slam Louder Than a Bomb would enjoy the media attention of peak YCA. NPR tie-ins, celebrity judges, mayors in the audience. It was simply us and the word against the world.
We trusted Young Chicago Authors. We needed it. The most important organization in the world as the new millennium started. It gave us black superstars like Chance the Rapper and made popular culture more utopian, redefining wokeness for a whole generation. Yet its staff suppressed sexual misconduct allegations for years, leading to the ouster of co-founder Kevin Koval. What exactly happened and where are they today? This is the Fall of YCA.
As I got to high school, it felt like the energy of my Keller classmates infused the festival with new life. Sydney and Kiki, who recruited me, also were part of the Kumbha Links community organization. They infused the scene with life as people who did these kinds of events day in, day out, not just once a year. Poetry, not as a hobby, but a lifestyle. Poetry as music, poetry as dance, poetry as fashion, health, revolution. Poetry made getting up worth it, made your worst failures and fears into beautiful triumph. This is what it meant to have a voice. We weren't just reading off paper. We were breathing life into the universe. It grew. Then they started shooting a movie based on our poetry slam, also named Louder Than a Bomb. Nate, a kid I'd went to elementary school with, was one of the stars. Another Keller kid. Adam Gottlieb, who I would later write a poetry book with, was another. After rave reviews from critics all over, the film was soon noticed by none other than Oprah Winfrey. We got to see her introduce and celebrate our art on her television channel, OWN. It was surreal, yet it felt earned. Our stories were important. Our storytelling, even more so. It was special. Our slam community became the hub for a cultural phenomenon. We were the faces of a true youth-led revolution. It felt like we were sages, wise beyond our years, as if the impacts of our words would be felt for eras to come. Wise or not, we still were just kids. We still needed to be protected. Yet our teachers bore little responsibility for the pain we projected. More often than not, it was the process itself that was seen as the peak. No follow-ups or trigger warnings, just regulations restricting profanity and an overall vibe that, hey, we like people of color and women. You would never think of this poetry scene as a place where sexual violence could happen, much less proliferate undetected or actively suppressed. But by 2010, community pillar, YCA educator, and internationally acclaimed author Roger Banera-Gard had already published poetry on his personal blog about having committed rape. A wolf in plain sight. On stage, we loved his so-called raw energy. We felt the undertones, and we trusted that his displays of passion were that of an ancestral protector, not a predator. As a man, he seemed to have been everything I had aspired to. We would trade videos of his and other spoken word artists like baseball cards, studying cadences of the legends. Come home with bags full of their books to study like the word of gods. We didn't buy drugs, we copped poetry CDs. It was a thriving ecosystem, and it was perfect. So it seemed. In this era, poet and advocate Nikki Patan had already began to have the experiences behind the scenes at YCA that led to her later starting Surviving the Mic, a survivor-centered poetry collective and event series. She reported inappropriate behavior from an educator to director Kevin Koval and found that her claims were not taken seriously. Not only that, she began to be frozen out of opportunities in the community. This pattern would also befall me, simply a teenager finding myself via art in the coming years. Poetry Slam, the lifeblood of YCA, was a recent invention. There was a story about its creator, Chicago Mark Smith, that was used as a familiar spiel before every bout. How he had only intended to entertain construction workers and ended up fostering this, the definitive literary genre by the turn of millennium. We got to not only hear about his venue, the Green Mill, but also see Mark at our youth slams. For purposes of worship and guidance, Koval will also bring in ex-Weather Underground provocateur Bill Ayers as his honored guest on many occasions. This would later become somewhat controversial to mainstream media pundits, but to us, it was incredible beyond belief to actually meet counterculture icons in the flesh. We all thought one day it'd be us. In the era preceding so-called wokeness, we were wide awake. Soon after the Louder Than a Bomb documentary blew up, HBO would present their own show, Brave New Voices, based off the National Youth Slam. Our movement was going global. Another subject of the Louder Than a Bomb documentary was the team Steinmetz. They were the West Side underdogs of the film, at a school in the neighborhood famous for disinvestment and subsequent violence. Contrasted with Flights of Fancy from Northsiders, Steinmetz's climactic piece was about youth caught in generational trauma from gun violence. Featuring larger-than-life characters like Big C, the de facto leader of the group was Lamar Jordan, who we'll also cover later. And as their team and influence on the scene grew, there was a younger kid who came up, Malcolm London.